I think there are equal odds of us going 6-0 as there are of us going 0-6. I just don't have any fucking clue how it's going to pan out. Do I think we're going to still win at least 3 games to go to a bowl game? Yes.
45, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30. He's going to go. Holy cow.
Big Red Junkies.
Day by day, he gets better and better. He gets better and better. Team is JPB. Oh, man, woman, and child, he just turned this stadium inside out.
God, could this fucking bye week be over already?
The longest
It's
of all
been
time.
miserable.
Hey, I'm going to go ahead and throw one of these out here right at the beginning.
Oh,
The Patriots are fucking awful.
okay.
I'm just going to start off like right there. Just fire it off. I'm also going to say this.
Where are we?
In Bill Belichick, I no longer trust.
Okay.
All right.
I'm just updating everyone on that. Like, you're going to stop hearing so much.
Literally nobody needs that.
Stop hearing so much about the Patriots from me.
Dude,
that's
there
for
are
sure.
people
Promise?
that don't know what football
Oh, yeah.
is that know that the Patriots are bad this year because everybody's very excited about it. So,
Oh, everybody loves it.
yeah.
It's wild. We're still so hated, even though it's been so long.
Welcome to Big Red Junkies.
Yeah, we're just gonna reel back to
Hey, we're football fans in general.
I
I just had to get that off my chest and out in the public.
it was more about that. It was literally the first thing that came out of your mouth.
Well, so it actually has a lot to do with what I want to talk about before we get into the Northwestern preview, which is recapping or not recapping, but previewing the second half of the season. Because and this is something I think I already said to you this weekend after watching the last Patriots game was, Bill Belichick, the coach, used to be able to overcome the shortfalls that were Bill Belichick, the GM. And he can't do it anymore. I feel like the game has passed him by. And I feel like a lot of what you looked at over the last two really, I don't know if I'd really lump Bo Pelini into this, but definitely Riley and definitely Scott Frost. Whether or not they were doing all the other stuff outside of, all the Frost stuff and all those things, or eating a lot of ice cream like Mike Riley, everybody talked about with him.
he was definitely eating a lot of ice cream.
I don't think they were doing enough in the coaching realm to make up for their shortcomings in the talent assessment and talent and development realms and the other things that are ancillary to just calling a game on the field. And we talked a little bit about that in one of our segments that we put out from our first half recap about, how do you rank these things and what do you put the fault of the offense on the most? And I was talking about that. The reason I wanted to go back to that was I wanted to clarify a little bit the fact that I was really more talking about, I feel like the coaching on the field has been good-ish, good enough that I ranked it third. But if you look at the talent evaluation and the development so far on the offensive side of the ball, I just don't think it's been there. But the coaching has been good enough to overcome that. Whereas we haven't seen that in the previous two staffs.
I like what, Matt, you brought it up in the recap show about how, because there was some talk about, does talent evaluation come with coaching? And, that's basically part of their job. And I don't disagree with what you're saying. And when I brought up the question, I said, these 3 options are reasons why our offense is not doing very well.
Yeah.
It's just how you, in your personal opinion, would rank them. I don't, obviously the talent evaluation has not been great, but I also still put the overall talent at number 1 because if you don't have much talent, the evaluation is kind of hard to do.
True.
So it's kind of, maybe 6 of one, half dozen of the other, or what came first, the chicken or the egg type stuff. I don't know. But again, that's just my own personal preference.
That's also,
and how I looked at it.
That's also where I put my faith in these coaches, is that I think that we're going to see, especially in the second half of the season as we get into it, some of that actual good coaching come into making these players better at what they're doing.
Well,
Absolutely.
And moving forward, not just for the second half of the season, but specifically as we get into this Northwestern preview, I'm very interested to see, I said in the recap show that, or maybe 2 shows ago, that the overall season grade for Satterfield, in my opinion, is going to be an incomplete considering all the injuries and the adaptation that he's had to have so far this season. although I'm still going to stick by that it's probably going to be an incomplete. I think coming off of this bye week and how he is able to
learn a lot.
Straight time off, look at the guys that he has, look at the guys that he doesn't have anymore, look at the guys that he's starting, whether it's Harburg, and it's going to be Harburg, but starting
And
Harburg,
we know that now.
Yes. And how he's going, and clearly he's been adapting his offense all season by bringing in Osborne and Ron Brown to basically teach them new plays. How much is this offense really going to be changed after having a week off? I think we're going to find that out a lot in this Northwestern game. I still say it's going to be an incomplete as the season goes on, but I think that this might fill in a little bit of holes on how they come off of this bye week.
No, I agree with everything you said there. Something that was asked of Heinrich Harburg in his press conference on Tuesday was, looking at how you guys have prepared so far, how do you think you would assess your ability to execute the scripted drives,
Mm-hmm.
the first of the first half and the first of the second half? And I thought it was an interesting question because of the way he answered it. And it kind of goes along with what you said as far as Satterfield kind of being thrown into some stuff that you don't really know how to assess him necessarily.
Yeah.
Because, and Harburg even said, he goes, look at Illinois. Our first drive started on the -1 yard line.
Mm-hmm.
How are we supposed to run our first scripted play, which is normally taking place on the 20 or the 25, from the 1? You have to adjust, you have to adapt to that. And then that script goes out the window immediately. So it's one of those things, exactly like what you said. I'm interested to see what the offense looks like after 2 weeks off. Everybody got a chance to get a little more healthy.
More than 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, more than 2 weeks.
It's been like 6 months. God damn, this has been a long bye week.
Get a little more healthy and really see what they worked on.
Yeah.
I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, I guess I should say, if we win the coin toss to see us actually receive first instead of putting it on the possibility that our defense is going to put them in a predicament to start it out. But who knows?
Or put the defense out there and set a tone. I
I was going to say,
whatever.
And
if I want to set
Considering
tone,
how good our defense is.
Yep.
Yeah.
and that's where, they were talking about that more in the press conference too. I think Tony White was asked about it. I know Rhule was asked about it. I think Satterfield was asked about it. Some of the players were asked about it. How much of a tone setting or a moment defining thing was that goal line stop to start the Illinois game. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about it when I was listening to their answers, and you heard Tony White reference it a couple times. You heard Rhule reference it like 3 or 4 times since it's happened, but we want to play like it's Sunday.
Yep.
We want to play like it's Sunday, and they keep referencing that
practice
after that Michigan blowout.
Yep.
And I think that might have actually been the tone-setting turning point for the season.
It could be.
Was them mentally saying, we're putting that Michigan game out of our minds. We're showing up tonight to practice and actually play. And they practiced their ass off from the sounds of it. And it completely changed the mindset of them going into Illinois and how angry they were and how Tony White talks about it. He said, after you saw them come off the field with that goal line stand, it was like everything they did in that Sunday practice, all that building that they had done, that was the culmination of it and the proof that they needed that this shit works.
Yeah.
Have you guys?
And then it moved.
It took a full week, and then it set in.
Have you guys gotten to watch that Rewind show on YouTube yet?
Not the rewind yet, no.
Okay. So they did episode 3 like last night or 2 nights ago, and it would have been basically the Sunday practice going into the Illinois game and then through the Illinois game. On episode 3, and they showed some of the Sunday practice as far as guys talking and everything else, and it was very physical and very emotional and demanding. And then it goes throughout the week. They go to the Illinois game. They show the pregame speech by Rhule, and he brought up the Sunday practice, and he brought up how hard are you guys going to fight? Are you guys going to fight when you're down 14-0? Like against the Michigan? Are you going to fight when you're down 28-0? Are you going to fight when they're on their 1 yard line? No idea. I mean, Rhule brought this up in the press conference the other day. He's like, I had no idea 8 minutes later they were going to be on the 1 yard line, and we were going to do what we did. Like, it's almost like he knew that this was going to happen, and he was asking the team, "Are you going to fight like you did on Sunday?" And then even after the game, the little post-game speech that he had in the locker room, he talked about how well the team played and how much you guys fought and all this other stuff and how proud he is. He goes, that Sunday practice really did something, didn't it? And they're like, yep. And he's like, who wants to practice on Sunday this week? And the majority of the team said, yeah, let's go. Like,
there were probably some people coming out of that game that were like, I don't know, Coach, I kind of like to let my body rest a little bit.
Well, at least they had Saturday to rest, but yeah, it was. But I think that mentality, I'm hoping that mentality is going to carry us a little ways for this second half of the season.
I loved what Tony White said about the fact that, after they got that goal line stand, every single time they were headed back out there, it wasn't shoulders low because they got put in a bad spot by the offense or anything like that. It was, let's go fucking play football. Let's get out there. Woo, let's go. I'm ready to hit somebody.
Which is kind of what I said a few shows ago when I was talking about how you asked, or one of you guys asked the question about, is the defense going to start resenting the offense? Basically, are they going to kind of start being like, fuck this?
You asked that question.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't think so because of the pride that the defense has in, we're going to go out and do our job and play our best. We hope that the offense does. It doesn't mean that we're like, fuck you, the offense. It's just they have such pride in how they play specifically, and however the chips fall is however the chips fall. They were doing that against Illinois.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, like I said previously, we had 6 quarters where I questioned the defense, and I didn't question them for a single second in this last game.
No.
Well, I questioned them for the beginning of that first drive because Illinois seemed to march right down the field on them, and Tony White even referenced that when he was talking about, we get to see in their first drive what type of look they think they're going to be able to get against us. What they saw in what flaws of ours they saw, and how they think they're going to exploit them. He said, and the guys are standing on the sideline pointing stuff out, and they're talking about things. And when he was talking about this, I just kept thinking to myself, I'm like, this team is so heady. Like, they're not just big dumb football players who like to hit people. And it seems like that's the way that Rhule is recruiting right now. Is he's after those guys that are going to be able to talk the talk as well as walk the walk.
Be coachable.
And be coachable, but also be able to learn how to coach.
I was just going to say coaches on the field.
Yeah, and learn how to move that forward and everybody talk the same way. This is something I heard from a couple different shows that I like to watch during the week that they talk about how it's kind of interesting that we get to hear from all these other people in the press conferences on Tuesdays and stuff like that, because you don't really need to talk to anybody other than Rhule because you're hearing the same message from everybody. It's not like it's been in the past when you hear from an offensive coordinator and everything sounds different than what you heard from Scott Frost. You don't have that variation, and it's not just the coaches, it's all the way down to the players. All the players are saying the same stuff. It's pretty interesting, and it leads me right into my question, referencing him versus Scott Frost. In year one, Scott Frost, through his last 6 games, which was what we have left, went 4-2. Do you think Matt Rhule is better than Scott Frost in year one? Not necessarily based on the record, but throughout the final 6 games, do you think Scott Frost and Matt Rhule, how do they compare?
I mean, you know how I felt about Scott Frost, even just going in.
We had a rougher first half of the season too.
Well, absolutely. I'm talking about I wanted Scott Frost to succeed, but I was not all bought in that this was a slam dunk hire that everybody thought it was.
Yeah.
I look at again, trying to answer this question without everything clouded of what we know happened after the first year. I didn't feel as comfortable as I do now. Maybe because of what I thought going into the season of the first year of Frost. I thought all the words were just words, and there was no meaning behind them. With Rhule, I feel like the words actually have meaning behind them. So, whatever our record is for these last 6 games, whether it's 4-2 or better than what Scott Frost did in his last 6 games, to me is irrelevant as far as the record goes. I see us so much in a more better place after year one, because I actually believe the stuff coming out of the coach's mouth.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with anything you said. For me, it does. Obviously, the games are different. You're playing different opponents. So the record is kind of whatever. I think the record honestly looks about the same. At least the hopeful side of me does. But I think the growth that we see in the team in this last half of the season will be greater than what we saw that first year with under Frost.
The other thing, most of the words that were coming out of Frost and his coaching staff were a lot of hope and like, yeah, we're going to do this. This is where it's going to go. This is where it's going to go.
Hope and swagger.
They're going to change for us.
You better get us now because in year 2 we're going to be dangerous. Those sort of things. Rhule and his staff is telling you how we're building this.
Mm-hmm.
They're telling us the process.
That's what I was about to get into, was based on what you guys have said. To back it up, I mean, Rhule started by telling us, I don't know if I can get any of this done in year 1, but this is what the end product is going to look like. This is how we're going to execute. These are the things, the steps along the way that you should start to see progress in. And all of his action items are coming.
Yep.
They're whether people want to believe it or not, he did warn us ahead of time that there were going to be some down moments. There were going to be some hard times, and that he's not usually good in year 1. Well, guess what, guys? His record is already as good as his best first-year head coaching.
But he also said, I feel like with the talent that we have, it feels more like year 2.
Yeah, and that's so fine.
There's a little bit of both there.
That's fine, but you can't take away the fact that he already said,
yeah,
year 1 is still year 1.
God damn it, I blame him for being better and giving me hope.
Well, hell, there were people after 2 games that said, he said this is more like year 2, and it feels just like a typical year 1 for Rhule. It's like, okay, well, how do you feel now at 3-3 with a manageable schedule where it's basically going to be, it could very well possibly end up like year 2 has for every single year of Matt Rhule.
I would also
back the fuck off.
I'd take a goddamn year 1 if it still means we get the year 3.
I totally agree.
Well, and what's Rhule's record in year 2 at Temple and
he basically makes a bowl game.
Yeah, he's basically like 500, right?
Basically, roughly 6 wins.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah.
So we could get to the end of the year and be exactly where he said we were.
Well, I think to answer my question, I don't know, but I feel, like Jed said, totally different about it just because of the fact that Frost said a lot of stuff that was already proving to not be true right off the bat. And I think he lost people immediately. And when I say people, I mean kids on his team. I think he lost credibility with a lot of cachet and swagger and false confidence that he had. And he wasn't speaking about action. He wasn't talking about anything tangible.
Sounds like another coach we know this year.
Who's that?
Prime.
Oh, yeah, well...
Doing all the same shit, throwing all the swagger, and not having the actions to back it up.
I mean, he did a better job to back it up a lot than what Frost did in that first year, or in the rest of the years. But
so just to let you know, so Rhule did not make a bowl game in year 2, but he was 6-6. But it's also Temple. If you're 6-6 at Temple, you're not making a bowl game.
Yeah, a 6-6 Temple team is just as likely to make a bowl game as a 5-7 Nebraska team.
At Baylor, he went 6-6 in the regular season, made a bowl game, won that, so he ended up at 7-6. So
nice.
Again, 6 wins is his second year. We could very possibly get to 6 wins in his first year here. So. He's right in this is what you expect the ups and downs in year 1 under Coach Rhule. He's also right that he feels like this is almost like a year 2.
Yeah.
He's literally right in both scenarios.
Yeah. Because in both those schools also, in his first year, he went, 2 or 3 wins?
3 total combined.
3 total.
Yeah.
This was 1 at Baylor, right?
1 at Baylor, 2 at Temple.
That's right. So he's already better right now than he was in his first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So for the people that are still griping about it, right now is a feel-good moment in the program. And I feel like the second half, I think there's a chance for him to match what Frost did at 4-2. I do.
Well, yeah, there's a chance, but,
there's a chance that he could go 6-0.
Yeah.
We'll get there in a little bit.
There's also a chance they can go 0-6. I don't know.
Well, I'm just going to say the difference for me between 3-3 and 4-2 is minimal at this point.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel just as good about it regardless.
I'm going to feel amazing if we are at 6-6. Heading into the last 2 weeks of our schedule. I'm going to feel amazing about it.
Well, that'd be weird because that's
really
already 12
difficult to
games
do.
with 6-6.
No, excuse me. It's sorry, at 6 wins heading into the last 2 weeks of our schedule.
I think I knew what you meant, but that's, I had to, give you shit for it.
I think there's a small part of me that's going to feel slightly let down if we're not. Because and this leads me right into my next question. who do you think the losses are in the second half? As far as our schedule goes, I mean, right now we're looking at Northwestern coming up this week. We get Purdue at home. We get at Michigan State. And then we get Maryland at home, which Maryland had looked like a really good team up until this last week. Mm-hmm. And then they shit the bed against the team that we just beat the piss out of.
I think Maryland let themselves down a little much with how well they hung in there in the first half against Ohio State to get beat the way they did.
Kind of a hangover type.
I feel like they weren't in that game last week.
I feel it. I feel what you're saying. There was an Ohio State game that we played, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe even 5 years ago. I can't remember for sure, but that we kind of did the same thing. We hung in there. It was a close game. It was like an 8 to 10 point game going into halftime, and then we ended up losing like 45-14 or something like that. Yeah. Very similar feel in that game. I didn't think we were very good in that game, and I didn't think Maryland was all that good in the Ohio State game either.
Well, hell, I mean, there was a little fear for us going into the Illinois game, coming off the Michigan game. Is Michigan going to beat us twice?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that is kind of what happened to Maryland.
How do you respond?
Exactly.
And they didn't respond well.
They did not.
Also, Illinois looked a lot better against them than they looked against us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for your question, I'm just going to jump in and go first.
Yeah.
I have 2 pretty confident wins and 2 pretty confident losses. I think Maryland is going to look better in their next couple of games. I think they're going to beat us this year. I also am chalking up Wisconsin as a loss. That said, Northwestern and Michigan State, with all of their coaching issues that they've had, if we can come in and just execute, don't fuck ourselves, we should be able to win those games pretty okay.
Easier said than done most of the time for Nebraska.
Absolutely true.
Just
that's another thing where I'm saying the coaching the second half of the season is going to look better, and we're going to see it there.
I hope so.
I'll say this.
And then I have, just before you jump in, I have 2 coin flips as far as Purdue and Iowa go. I think Purdue is a better team than they've looked so far this year, and Iowa's pretty much always a coin flip for me.
See, I was thinking that Purdue was going to be a better team after the way that they played Illinois, and then we played Illinois. And I realized how not good Illinois is, and then I looked at all the other games that Purdue has played. They're not good.
No.
They're not a good team.
Well, they're not a terrible team, though.
No, but they are a first-year total rebuild type situation.
Over our next 3 games, they have the best odds against us.
I believe that, hands down. Northwestern, I think their head coach that took over, I think he's doing a phenomenal job with that situation.
Hell, I think he's already
to have 3 wins, the job. Yeah. I don't know who else you're going to find to go in there. Yeah. It's Northwestern. It's harder than getting people into Notre Dame. I don't know what you're going to do as far as bringing athletes in there and recruiting against other Big Ten.
Mm-hmm. Way harder because they have the same amount of academic standards, and nobody wants to go play there.
Yeah.
People want to play at Notre Dame. There's a difference.
True fucking story.
Yeah.
True fucking story.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give my answers, and then I'll come back on that. I think Northwestern is going to be a tougher test for us in the first half than a lot of people are expecting.
I'm still worried about that game getting chippy.
Well, it might get chippy. Mostly because there's going to be some shit talk come from the Northwestern side of things just about the way that we have self-destructed against them. But I think we win Northwestern. I think Purdue actually is a lower tier type game for us in a standpoint of I think that could be a 20-plus point blowout win for Nebraska at home. They're both 2:30 games. I wish one of them or both of them were under the lights, but I guess by the end of the game, the Purdue game, it might be under the lights. But at Michigan State, that's a coin flip game for me. I don't think they're very good. It doesn't seem to have mattered to them that Tucker's gone.
It seems to have made them worse, in my opinion. They seem disheveled. They seem like they don't care to be there. They don't look good on the field this year.
Yeah. I think they're kind of getting out of that. Early on, I would agree with that. I think that they're slowly starting to move on.
Was it Rutgers that they got beat by this week?
I don't remember.
But I have that as a coin flip game. I'm going with a win on that because I feel like it's kind of more of a momentum thing because I do have us going, on a 3-game win streak heading into that game. I also have Maryland as a loss, and that was a good game. That was a good back and forth game. Yep. I have Maryland as a loss for us at home as well.
I see that being a really good game, by the way.
I do too.
The Maryland game.
I think Tagovailoa is just that much better, and their offense is going to be able to do some things. Like they don't try and run the ball much to move the ball. So I think they match up probably the best of any of the teams that are left in our schedule. They match up the best against our defense. Wisconsin just lost their quarterback. There's a fair to decent chance that he's not going to be back, or at least not 100% back by the time of the Nebraska game. Broke a bone in his throwing hand. They're talking about indefinite. Sounds like they think his season might be over based on what the Wisconsin media is talking about, and they don't have a backup. Like, they don't have another guy to come in. So they have become a one-dimensional team. It showed badly against Iowa. I don't think Iowa's defense is any better than our defense is, and I think that's a win. At Wisconsin, fuck the Badgers, fuck Madison. Their fans are terrible in Madison. From everything that I've heard, it's a horrible place to go watch a game for opposing fans. So I put that up as a win. And unfortunately, I think the Iowa game is going to come down to a last second who can fuck up a field goal type of thing. And I feel like I don't have as much faith in our field goal kickers.
If you're right and we have 4 more wins going into Iowa, I think we kick the shit out of Iowa this year.
You think Harburg's maybe throwing the ball a little bit better by then?
I think our team has a different confidence to them that we've not seen in 10 years.
I mean, I agree with you.
I don't see. I'm not at all saying.
I want to see one more game.
Yeah,
I think Illinois. Yes, there was amazing confidence coming off of that, and it was a feel good win. Like, it felt good, even though it looked like shit.
I don't know if that was confidence. That felt like, fuck it, let's do this to me.
Yeah. Well, that's what Tony White said the defense was basically doing.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Iowa game is going to come down to, are we over our skis when it comes to our confidence and our excitement about the game and where we are? And Iowa's still Iowa. Also, Kirk Ferentz, there's rumors that he might be considering retirement. I think he really doesn't want to have to fire his own son.
Well, he wouldn't be the one firing him because of the nepotism law in Iowa. But
whatever.
Yeah,
gonna lose both Ferentzes in the same season.
So that's where I have us. I have us finishing the 4-2, with that coin flip game being Michigan State and Iowa, with a definite loss at Maryland.
Okay. I mean, I know you hate the whole push stuff, and obviously I can't say push on this because that's not the question. But I just have no fucking clue, and I have no clue for 1,000 reasons. One, Nebraska. I have no clue what Nebraska team's going to show up, whether that's game by game or half by half. Because we played, I mean, I know the whole game against Illinois was bad, but we played really well in the first half. We played like dog shit in the second half. We only scored 3 points.
Well, I think the only big difference between the two halves was taking care of the ball.
Yeah.
If we took care of the ball in the second half, that's probably actually like a 35-point win.
Yeah.
It could have been, but it wasn't. And that's what our team is. Like I said, the inconsistency
and the
of
penalties,
our team.
for sure.
Yes.
That's part of what I was talking about, over the skis with excitement, and that whole like, oh my God, guys, we're doing it. We're actually doing it.
But that's what we've had 6 games, and we've already seen our team kind of get their heads on their shoulders a little bit more. Give this coaching staff another half a season. We might see a completely different team by the time we get.
But we also have not seen our team be able to ride that wave, because most of the time over the last however many years, once we get on that wave, we crash really quickly.
You get that high, and then you have a letdown, which it could be a trap against Northwestern coming up this week.
Yeah. So I mean, I agree with you that we're starting to get a stronger neck to hold the head.
It comes down to
but
the
at
coaches.
the same time, it's it's very fragile still.
Yeah.
But
right now, Xander, he'll push up and he'll look me dead in the eyes when he's sitting on my chest right now, and he'll sit there and he'll kind of do this for a little bit, and then about fucking 30 seconds in, there's just going to be a headbutt, and he's done.
Yep.
Well,
I hope we don't headbutt.
I hope we're done being infants.
But not just the inconsistency and the huge question marks on Nebraska. This entire schedule, each team has massive question marks. They're all basket cases completely. Like, which Northwestern team is going to show up? They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to take Minnesota to overtime and eventually beat them. They were tied at halftime with Penn State, and then they struggled to beat Howard last week or 2 weeks ago because they had a bye week as well.
They're the only one with a last-second field goal or something like that.
They
right?
won 23-20.
Yeah,
They have the ultimate fuck it attitude going on right
Yes.
now. They're playing to all of their opponents.
they're playing with house money, right? They're basically what Colorado's program was last year with a little bit more talent.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were expected to win no games this year. They were giving, I think, 0.5 odds for over/under for wins by Vegas. Half their coaching staff got canned. The other half was basically told, you don't get this job regardless of how well you do this year.
Yep.
Which that might change. You never know what you never know what you don't know. That being said, they're like I said, they're playing with house money. They have nothing to lose. So when they go into these games, like you're talking about, they came back. They rallied against Minnesota, which I heard rumblings this week that PJ Fleck might be on his way out in Minnesota. They think he's already shopping jobs. But regardless, you don't know what they're going to do.
No.
They could come out and just smash.
Purdue, they got beat up by Syracuse and Wisconsin, and then they smacked around Illinois. Michigan State, they held their own against Iowa. They smacked Rutgers around until they gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter to Rutgers and lost.
Yeah. It's actually similar to that Northwestern Minnesota game.
Yes. Or, have they officially quit after Mel Tucker got fired? We don't know which team is going to show up there. Basically, the way this is going is we don't know which team of any of these guys, whether it's Nebraska or any of our opponents, are going to show up. Maryland, looking like they might have one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country and definitely the best quarterback in the Big Ten, and then they show up against Iowa and play like shit. Wisconsin, they have been up and down. Their scores have looked more impressive than what the games actually have. They have terrible consistency at all, completely. They lost their quarterback, so who knows how their season is going to continue to go for however
their
long
offense
he's
doesn't
gone.
look anything like what it was supposed to at the beginning of the season.
And then Iowa's
Kinda like
Iowa.
us.
Iowa's Iowa. They can't score to save their lives, but they can also stop you from scoring.
Yeah.
So
Which, against our offense so far, has been a pretty easy thing to do.
very scary. So, if I don't trust Nebraska, really, to put up even 21 points, depending on which team against we're playing against shows up, we could definitely lose these games. I don't think that we're going to do either one of these two things that I'm about to say, but I think there are equal odds of us going 6-0 as there are of us going 0-6. I just don't have any fucking clue how it's going to pan out. Do I think we're going to still win at least 3 games to go to a bowl game? Yes.
Jed said it.
For me to sit
Jed
here
said
and
it.
say which ones our 3 wins are going to come from, I have no fucking clue.
Is that what you think we end with? Is 3-3 for the last
I think
half?
that's the most likely, yeah.
I think
I think
totally
that's the
agree.
safest
Yeah.
bet. If you were asking me to pick a record, I would go with 3-3 just because it's the safest bet.
Yeah.
I truly think there's a very good chance we get to 4-2.
But if you told
Just
me we
like
go
you
2
said,
and 4,
though.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, if you told me 2 and 4, I think I'd be disappointed
I mean,
because
said
of where I
surprised.
am right now. But I also, like we've talked about before, it's been a week and a half since we've had anything tangible to talk about with Nebraska football, other than the press conferences, and the Nebraska media does a really good job of getting you to believe and think things are something special moving forward. So we don't really know where we are. That's why I said I want to see what we look like against Northwestern coming off of that emotional Illinois game.
Yeah.
Because it was emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what anybody wants to say, regardless of it being 1 week and all that stuff, it was an emotional win. To get that win the way that they won the game, especially the way that it started, and then you get a
coming
second
off of the
game,
Michigan game.
and you get 2 goal line stands in that game. It was huge. It was a big momentum swing for us, and it could have all been for nothing. So,
one thing before we move on, and I think it's funny that you said 21 points. Our offense scoring 21 points. I think we could see a couple wins in the second half without scoring 21 points.
I know I was being aggressive when I said 21, but I'm just saying 3 touchdowns. We struggle to score 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So
if I'm a bettor going over these next 6 games, I'm taking the under on every single
game.
fucking
I
one.
don't even care what the number is.
we're going to have to wait to see what that number is, though.
I don't care.
Going to have to wait to
Unders.
see.
That's at every single game.
I'll tell you right now, I know you're going to say it later, I'm taking the under. I don't give a shit what
That's
the
fine.
fucking
It's
number
going to be
is.
in the upper 30s, and I'm
You
taking
could tell me the number is 22, and I'll say under.
I'm going to have to look at it because there's a few of these defenses that I feel like we could exploit.
With what?
Yes.
Fine.
With what offense? With what offense?
I mean,
Let's be real.
now you're
Can
right.
we just put our defense back out there and see if they can score points?
This is
Some of our players came from the offense anyway. So.
this is one of the things that I said at the preseason when you wanted me to pick games one way or the other, and I was like, and of course you had a better record than I did because that's the way we go, and
I don't want to hear it.
well, yeah, you, but you kept saying that we had an easier schedule this and easier schedule that. I'm like, yeah, but we're still Nebraska. We're not very good. So you also got to look at the team that our opponents are playing.
Yeah, no,
It's not just
you're
about
right.
how easy the schedule might look. What about the team that they're playing?
That's
You're
why,
right.
That's why Georgia's schedule was ranked like 127th this
Yeah.
year. It's because they're the number one team.
Yeah.
So, do you think, as far as looking at the rest of the schedule here, which we're playing a lot of Big Ten West opponents here, how do you think the Big Ten West shakes out? Is Iowa still the clear favorite sitting there right now, especially just because they're number one currently?
Yes, yeah.
Think so?
Yeah.
It's kind of theirs to lose.
Well, they don't have any. The rest of their schedule is a joke.
Yeah, it's
Like,
Who do they have left?
They already played
hold on,
their
I'll
two
tell
tough
you.
teams. They already played. They only had Penn State of the Big Three. And they already lost to them, and they played Wisconsin and they beat them. They don't have.
they have Minnesota
Win.
at home, Northwestern at home,
Win.
Rutgers at home, Illinois at home, and then they come to Nebraska. So they should be rolling on what would be.
They have at least 3 wins before they get to Nebraska.
Yeah. They'll be
West.
10-1 heading into Nebraska, probably ranked in the top 10. Top 15 at least.
If you get to that point, you're going to be ranked up that high. I mean,
Okay.
You're 10 and you're a one-loss team at that point.
you're a Big Ten team. You're 10. Yeah, you got to be up there.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, that's them.
It's mainly because of the schedule. Like Wisconsin still has Ohio State to play. They're above us so far in the rankings. I know that with the losing their quarterback, they might go down. Technically speaking, you could say Nebraska and Minnesota. Well, Minnesota would be one of the teams that controls their own destiny, technically speaking, because
If they beat Iowa,
they have
and
2
win out,
losses. If they win out, they're going to be above us because they beat us.
and they'll be above Iowa.
Yes. So Minnesota can, but Minnesota's not going to win all their games because they still have one of the big games left on their schedule as well. So they're going to definitely lose at least one more. And then yes, does Nebraska sort of control their own destiny? Because if they win out, and as long as Minnesota wins one game, they're in.
Well, here's my thought on that. Like just getting a little bit excited, looking at our 2 schedules coming up. What if we're 8-3 and probably a fringe top 25 team with Iowa coming to town, probably somewhere between 8 and 14 ranking? What if we're looking at beating Iowa?
Did you say 8-14?
Like somewhere in the 8-14 range would be where Iowa would be if they come in.
Oh,
10
I thought you were
1.
talking about us being.
No. If we're
Sorry.
8
I'm
if
sorry.
we're 8-3, we're going to be a fringe 25 team.
Okay, I apologize.
Fringe 25 and going into a playing against a potential top 10 team.
We're not going to be 8-3, but that's.
I'm saying there's a possibility for it. If we were 8-3, if we both
And
win
there's
out
a
until we
chance.
get to that game, we'd actually be playing to basically knock Iowa out. And if Minnesota doesn't win out, we'd be playing to go to the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
And knock Iowa out of it for the 2nd year in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'd be fucking fun.
it would be fucking fun. There's like a less than 1% chance of that happening in my mind. I'm not getting excited about it.
That's fine.
We that question is literally. I mean, so Rhule talked about that at the press conference. He's like, this whole program, we need to stop looking ahead. Now he did say the fans can do what they want. They do that. That's what we're doing right now.
Oh, yeah.
And that's perfect.
Hey, guys, this is a fan podcast. I know we remind you every show. This is a fan show. We are not experts. Nothing that we're saying should be taken as betting advice.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm a professional. Listen to everything I say.
Mr. 11-1.
For those of you not watching on the video, he's massively rolling his eyes. So the rest.
So is everybody else. But yeah, that's so far. I told you in a text, I said, I'm solely focused on getting to 6 wins, bowl eligibility. As far as winning the West, I'll think about that if and or when we get to 6 wins.
I'm so not focused on the 6 wins that I'm not even focused on beating Northwestern. I'm focused on our first drive and what it looks like.
I am week by week as
you.
well. I'm just saying, as far as long-term anything, my first long-term on anything is 6 wins.
Well, you know, I
don't
like to
care
make
about
you
anything
uncomfortable,
else.
and that's why I asked the questions about long-term.
No, I told you guys, I was working out listening to Matt Rhule do his pregame pep talk. And
That was his pregame for Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
If
one
we
where
die,
he's
we
yelling,
die.
If we die, we
Yeah.
die, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. That's why I'm
a
like,
fucking good one.
I'll tell you-
Go win this play.
Go watch episode 3 of that Rewind show, and they have the whole pregame speech. I know I talked about just what a little bit of it was. Oh, man, he's so good.
Yeah.
He is so good.
He's a great speaker, man. He's great at grabbing you by the throat and just making you do it.
Yep.
So my last question that I have for you guys, as far as previewing the second half, does Nebraska finish with the top 25 defense overall? Where are we ranked right now? Do you know?
24th.
We're ranked 24th overall.
24th right now.
Do you think we finish in the top 25?
I mean, we don't play very good offenses.
True.
The rest of the you know,
And we're getting consistent again.
True.
yeah. I mean, the average ranking offense for our last 6 games is 90.
Yeah.
In the country.
I think unless
Granted, that's pushed way down by Iowa being absolutely dead last at 133 and Northwestern being close to dead last at 122.
Well,
So that number,
that's still a third of our games.
and Wisconsin's offense is that number looks fake right now because their quarterback is no more. They don't have a passing game anymore.
I see a lot more upside than downside for our defense right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they're going to move, I see them moving closer to number 1 and not further away from it.
Sure.
So I'm going to go with yes. We finish with the top 25 defense.
Where do you think we end?
20-ish.
20-ish?
I don't see us getting that much better because that top 20 is all really good. And I think our defense is too, but we've seen that they can give up some plays. I don't see them getting worse than 25.
Well, I think health is going to play into it too.
If
Getting
we-
Reimer
if we
back right
see-
now, that's gonna be a big
That's gonna
thing.
be big. If we see other injuries, then obviously that number goes out the window. But we get the brain back this week. We're going to be good.
Yeah.
I can see us finishing in the top 30. But I don't know. I mean, there's so many. Top 25, top 30 doesn't really matter if you end up being 6-6.
You want to talk about being a pussy? Pick a number.
Top 30.
Like you always say, I asked the question.
You think we're ending at 30th?
top 30, sure.
He's going with 30th.
Fair enough. I'm going with top 25 as well. I think our rush defense probably finishes a little bit lower than what it is right now, but our overall, like our scoring defense, I think we're only going to improve because, like you said, we're not playing good offenses the rest of the way out. No. These are going to be some dog fights, some muddy games.
And as good as they've been,
if we score an average of 20 points across these last 6 games, I think we have a very good chance at going 5-1, 6-0.
Well, I think the big thing about where...
If we average 20 points a game, I said.
I think the big thing about where we end up as far as total defense will be based on if our pass defense can get better. Right now, we're at 95th in the country. Yep. So we're not very good at pass defense.
But we're just not getting turnovers.
Now, granted, that's not really going to help when we play against Maryland with Tunga Bailoa.
Yeah, and that's why I said they're the
us.
best offense left to face us.
Yeah. But then again, you know, it's going to hurt us playing against Maryland, but it's going to help us playing against Iowa. So,
Iowa, Wisconsin. Purdue doesn't throw the ball that well.
You mean that air raid offense doesn't throw the ball around?
Well, they're not really air raid anymore.
Who, Purdue? Yeah, well, yeah, they are. Because they have the
the coaching tree.
They have the Mike Leach guy. Graham Harrell.
Right.
You know, they stand in the pocket.
Yeah.
Nothing but air raid out there at Purdue.
You guys aren't going to let that go, are you?
Nope.
And this may be the most unbelievable night in Cornhusker football history.